Have you ever settled? Do you believe you're being settled for? Are you settling or are you a settler? We're going to be talking about settling as we continue this series on marriage being worth it. Stay tuned and you'll find out a whole lot more. We'll be right back. What's up, Safehouse
What's
family?
up, safe house? Safe house.
Another week and another safe
Yes,
house.
here we are back again.
Oh, we just want to thank you for continuing to support us and watching the episodes and the shorts. We love the feedback and the input you've been giving us. It's just driven us. And we're talking by popular demand more about is marriage still worth it and digging into this topic of settling.
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 Yeah, I know. That's a settling is one of those controversial words too, because it's like when you first hear it, you think it's like it always has you think it carries a negative connotation,
Yeah.
you know? And so, but I think we want to talk about both, how, like you said, there is a negative
Mm-hmm.
connotation
Mm-hmm.
around settling. But I also think there's a positive way to to look at it. I kind of like what you said in the beginning about settlers.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a really good way to think about settling because, like you said, when settlers first start, when they first came, it's like it's all about
Yeah.
building community. And so, like you said, so when you are in a relationship, I think it would be kind of cool to think about, okay, that we're settlers, that we're really thinking about, how we're going to build our lives
Yeah. Yeah.
together, you know.
Yeah, and the difference, with settling versus settler, we talk about settling, you feel like, okay, I'm just choosing to take whatever's here
Hmm.
versus choosing to be a settler. I'm kind of taking on the mindset of a pioneer,
Yeah,
right?
I like that.
I'm
Yeah.
going to explore something that may not be optimal, there may be challenges, but I have a vision
Hmm.
for a future, right? I have
Yeah.
I have a vision of this small place that we're deciding to pitch our tent
Hmm.
will eventually become a little town. It may
Yeah.
become a city. It may become a metropolis, right? It,
Yeah.
it, it could be all those things. But once again, the settler's mindset is not about the challenges you're going through today, but building something for tomorrow. So
Yeah.
there's a kind of positive type of settler,
Oh yeah,
but we
absolutely.
often don't use it that way in language.
Yeah, and I like that you said like pioneers, because once again, like I said, every relationship is very unique. I think every relationship has an opportunity to be pioneers, bring something new to the table, whether it's new to your family, or whatever. And so, like I said, I really like that word, like you said, pioneering.
Yeah. Do you think we bring a pioneering mindset to relationships? So let's think about this. Let's dwell on the pioneering
Hmm.
thing for a second. When people get together or when people are pursuing relationships, do you think they have a pioneer's mind? So let's dig into a pioneer's mind. One, you understand you're going into an uncharted place.
Yeah.
You understand that you're going when you're developing a relationship with somebody that's brand new, yeah, that person may have been in a relationship, you may have been in a relationship, but this thing you are establishing together is an uncharted place
Yeah. That's
that
good.
didn't
Yeah.
exist before,
Yeah.
right? So you kind of understand that, okay, there aren't going to be things that are constructed for me, right? There's
Right.
not going to be
Mm.
electricity, there's not going to be water, there's not going to
Yeah.
be conveniences
Hmm.
that get in more established places,
Yeah.
right? So you have an idea that, yeah, I know those things aren't necessarily going to be there from day one, but if I'm the pioneer, if I'm the settler, it's my responsibility to establish those things at
Yeah.
some point, right?
Yeah.
So this may be a revelation for some folks out here trying to get into a relationship, right? That if you really took this idea of pioneering and settling into relationships, right? The idea of, oh, wait a minute, this is something new. This is an adventure. This is not everything's going to be established. Not everything's going to be clean. Not everything is going to be pretty.
Hmm.
The journey between where I am right now, which is established place, to this new place, there's going to be stuff in between
Yeah.
here
Yeah.
and there. So what do you
Yeah.
think about that?
No, I mean, I think it's really interesting because once again, like you said, when you think of yourself as like the pioneer, it's like everything's not going to go right.
Hmm.
It's like it's really, it's like, okay, let's try it, see if it works. If it doesn't work, we're still together. We're not like breaking apart. But like you said, because we both recognize that we're both building something
Hmm.
together. And like you said, I don't think a lot of couples when when they're dating or even when you're married, that you think about that pioneering spirit
Yeah.
because that's really what it is. It's like, we're constantly building. Why? Because we're evolving, we're different people, and so once again, it's okay, what's next?
Yeah.
What are we going, something that's original, something that's unique
Hmm.
because every relationship is different. Yeah, I mean the pattern is the same, man and a woman,
Hmm.
but once again, what's on the inside of us
Hmm.
is different from what's on the inside of another couple
Yeah.
because God created all of us very unique,
Hmm.
and so when he puts us together, now it's like you said, I feel like we are on this journey. We're on this pioneering journey, with God to be like, okay, let's see how this is going to unfold.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
see what we're going to build. And I think sometimes, like you said, that's how people get unsettled.
Yeah.
I know we call it settling, but like you settled in marriage, but I think it's that's how people get unsettled
Yeah.
because they're no longer focusing on the pioneering part
Yeah.
of of the relationship.
They're focused on the shock of the
Yeah,
change in the
yeah. Oh,
process, right?
yeah. And
Which
it's can be
it
shocking.
can
Let's
be
just be
shocking, right?
honest. Yeah.
But let's, this I'm liking this analogy. I think there's
Mhm.
something we could build up because let's think about what pioneers did. When you look at the old films, history books of pioneers, they were also prepared for an adventure,
Yeah, that's
right?
true. Yeah.
So they knew they were going into a place where everything wasn't defined. So they knew they might not find water, so they brought some water. They knew
Mhm.
that we might not find shelter, so we had the ability to build stuff. We brought tools along. So
Mhm.
so how many of us, when we're going on these relationship journeys, becoming pioneers, are prepared, right, for the adventure, right? Are we
Yeah, that's
are we yeah,
right. That's good, yeah.
yeah, are we preparing? Are we and let's make it like let's make it spiritual, right? If I know that going into a relationship I have baggage, my preparedness is going to look spiritual, right?
Yeah, absolutely,
I'm going to
yeah.
lean into things of the word. I'm going to lean into trusted spiritual people in my life as I go down this journey so that I'm prepared so that when I encounter wilderness, wild animals, weird things, weird encounters,
Yeah,
I have things to deal with those situations, right?
mhm,
I have, the word to quench my thirst when
yeah,
I'm in a dry season. I have all these things, that I've brought along with me. But notice too, there's just enough stuff to bring along with you because you can't bring so much baggage
right,
with you
that's true,
that
yeah,
you can't move,
yeah,
right? So if I brought everything that I owned in my established place as a pioneer, I wouldn't be able to move rapidly enough to the new place, right?
right, and I also think too, if I'm bringing everything with me, then I'm not leaving room for anything
Yeah,
new.
you're not pioneering, right? You're
Yeah,
not being
yeah,
adventurous. You're just trying to
right,
take what you have
yeah,
and take it to a different
right,
place.
and yeah, that's definitely not pioneering,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So how many of y'all are feeling this analogy? How many
I
of y'all
really
are
like
looking
it,
through
wow, yeah,
are you looking through your those that are on the path looking for a relationship? Are you looking at this with a pioneer's mindset? Or if you're in a relationship or you're in a marriage right now, have you stopped and said, "Man, have I begun to really understand what it means to pioneer with the
mhm,
person that I'm with?" Right, this discovery place, right? Even if you're at a marriage and we'll tie this back to settling. You feel like you're settling, right?
mhm,
And you feel like we're at a place, right? Well, if we just shift our mindsets to a second to say, well, okay, we're at this place now. We're pioneers. We've reached a dry spot. We've reached a desert or whatever have you. How can we as pioneers now take on this spirit of, okay, how do we move to the next place? How do we
yeah,
look for some place with water? How do we
mhm,
look for some place that has some shelter or some materials or some something? This idea of moving us from this place that we are right now.
yeah,
And so, that's a way to kind of give yourself mental imagery about how do
mhm,
I re-visualize, how do I reimagine what my relationship is
yeah.
to motivate you.
Because I think that's really powerful because to me that's one of the it's one of the healthy traits
Hmm.
of settling.
Hmm.
It's saying that okay, we're going to work together
Hmm.
through challenges. We're going to work together through these desert spaces. Whether, now the unhealthy settling
Yeah.
is I can't believe you brought me.
Right. I can't believe you brought
You
me
brought
out
me
here.
to the
I'm
desert.
out here. I'm in this
How we
mess,
get
right?
here in the desert?
Yeah, and
You know?
I'd like to call that selfish settling, right?
Right.
It's unhealthy settling is selfish settling because now I'm basically I'm accepting this circumstance that I'm in,
Right.
that you've put me in, that I'm in, because I believe I have no other options,
Right.
right?
We out here now.
We out here now, so I got to accept you. There's nothing else, so
Right.
woe is me, right? And the
Yeah.
problem with that kind of settler, I don't have history, so don't quote me, Andre. Didn't have a history book, but I bet having those types of people in your camp just drug the whole camp down
Yeah. Oh yeah,
because
absolutely.
what happens is you have a person there that's just waiting for somebody else to give them hope.
Yeah.
They're waiting for somebody else to fix it,
Yeah.
right? And they're not satisfied until somebody else fixes it.
Yeah.
And what you really find out is that there's no way to fix it to their satisfaction.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
you fix one thing, there's another thing wrong. You fix another thing, there's another thing wrong because they've basically settled. They've taken on a settled mindset, not a settler's mindset,
Right.
but this selfish settling mindset.
Yeah. And plus too, like you said, it's I like the analogy though, because like you said, we're in this very challenging place. And once again, it's, emotions are heightened,
Hmm.
intellectually, we're in a space, and even spiritually, we're in a space. And so if we don't know how to navigate
Hmm.
our way through those places, because once again, navigating is I'm still moving,
Yeah.
but once again, if I don't know how to navigate, now I'm stuck.
Yeah. Let's add to that list that you're probably physically fatigued as
Yeah,
well, right?
absolutely.
So
Yeah.
you can have the emotional, the spiritual, intellectual things going on, but there may be a physical fatigue part
Yeah.
there. And let's not discount that physical fatigue can have an effect
Oh
on
yeah,
your emotional
absolutely.
state.
Yeah.
I'm physically tired. My guard may be down. My ability to think clearly. My frustrations take the best. A lot
Mhm.
of things occur when you're
Oh yeah.
physically fatigued.
Mhm.
So all those things could be manifest, especially if we're going through
Yeah.
a negative
A negative
patch. Yeah, yeah,
patch.
yeah.
And I mean, I think, the reality is there there are always going to be patches.
Absolutely.
I think, to me that's also kind of one of the ideas of being in, of settling in a healthy way
Hmm.
is saying, okay, let me not live in the fantasy
Hmm.
of that everything is always, sparkly and rainbows and
Right.
unicorns. But there are going to be times, always think about it like a rose. A
Hmm.
rose is really beautiful, but it's also thorny.
It's thorny. Yeah.
And so there are going to be thorny times. Doesn't mean I throw away the rose or the rose isn't less beautiful. But what I do think over time is that when that negative mindset of settling comes in, then the rose begins to lose its beauty.
Yeah.
You don't see it as beautiful anymore.
Yeah. And let's be real. Roses are beautiful when they're in season.
Right.
Between
Oh, come
between
on,
yeah,
man, in season. I
yeah,
love it.
between seasons,
Yeah,
rose bushes are not the most attractive looking plants,
that
right?
is true. No,
And
that's true.
while they're being developed, they're kind of cut down to nothing and they
Yeah,
look like little stubs or whatever.
yeah,
But that's preparing it to get it to this place of beauty,
yeah,
right? When
yeah,
it's time and in its season. And I think the thing that you just brought out when it comes to having this pioneering or this settlers mindset about relationships is that part of my preparedness is that I understand that in the process of adventure, there's going to be that's the whole preparation component.
yeah.
This is why, as Christians, we have a hope, we have a word, we have prayer, because these are the tools we lean into when
Mhm.
the negative times do come, and they will come,
Right.
right?
Oh, yeah.
And I think, yeah, go ahead.
And even to your point, like going back to the concept of a rose bush, when you think about pruning,
Hmm.
pruning is okay. It definitely, by the time you prune it, it definitely doesn't look like a rose tree,
Mm-mm.
but something that roses could even come back from. And so, like you said, it's always a timing issue.
Hmm.
And so, what happens is while we're waiting,
Hmm.
for the roses, to come back,
Mhm.
we can get frustrated,
Mhm.
all of these different things.
Right.
And like I said, we have that rose bush,
Mhm.
like right out in front. Now, some years, oh my God, it's like overflowing
Yeah.
with roses.
Yeah.
And then other times I might just see a few.
Yeah.
And I think that's how life is sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're like, "Ooh, it's 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 overflowing." Sometimes you only see a few, but the thing that I think what's key is that the rose bush isn't dead.
It isn't dead, and it hasn't given up its
Right,
identity as a
right.
rose
It's
bush.
still that's the powerful
Yeah,
piece.
yeah.
That's the
It's
I mean,
like
that kind of leads me to the scripture
yeah,
that I
yeah.
want to share. So the scripture that I want to share is Psalm 139 and 14.
Mhm,
It says, "I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made.
mhm,
Wonderful are your works. My soul knows it well."
mm,
And I think what happens is even when we get into that negative headspace
mhm.
of um of settling, we we forget that we're created, fearfully,
Yeah,
and that we're created wonderfully. Like that's who I am.
yeah, and not only that, this person that you think you've settled for,
Yeah.
they were also created
That
that
come
way.
on. They were also
They were
created
also
that
create that
way.
way,
You
right?
know,
And it doesn't just because of the patch we're going through, it doesn't diminish their identity.
right. And
Yeah.
so I think too that that's one of the things that kind of create a scenario on whether or not you get to a place where you're in a healthy space of where you're settling
Mhm,
and when you're in a negative space, because I think that what precedes negative settling is that somewhere you've lost your identity.
mhm,
You've forgotten that God created you fearfully. And what I love about the definition of fearfully is it's that it implies great reverence
mhm,
and heartfelt interest.
mhm,
That when God made me,
mhm,
he made me with such reverence.
mhm.
And I think that we lose the reverence for
We
ourselves.
do, yeah,
We don't know when we show up in relationships, we don't even know how to honor our own identities.
yeah,
And so what happens is we start to shrink back
mhm,
on our identities just for the sake of the relationship or whatever, because that's completely different from compromising when I start to shrink back my identity.
right,
And that to me is where, like you said, when people start talking about negativity, when you're just you're settling for less.
mhm,
But why would I'm doing myself a disservice
mhm.
when I'm settling for less,
Yeah,
because now I've forgotten that I'm fearfully
and wonderfully
and
ma
wonderfully
yeah,
made,
yeah,
and that my soul knows that.
yeah,
Somewhere my soul doesn't know, like my soul is my emotions, my intellect, all of that. It's forgotten.
or it doesn't believe, yeah,
Right.
yeah, yeah,
That's who I am.
yeah,
And that the best version of who I am, who God created me to be, is going to be okay for you.
yeah, yeah, and that the best person of version of that other
Right.
person
Absolutely.
can be okay for you too,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
But once again, you have to come out of that sort of defeated
Yeah.
mindset,
Yeah. Yeah.
because you've decided to take on what you believe I can reach no higher than this,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because and what's really wild is God may be saying that person is a high height for you. You just don't realize
Yeah.
it.
Mhm.
You have a diamond in the rough, or
Yeah.
you have gold in its raw form. You
Mhm.
just don't realize it because you've discounted the way it looks,
Yeah.
right?
That's
And
good.
let's go back
Yeah.
to the rose bush that we have growing out front, right?
Mhm.
That rose bush goes through many different seasons, right? So, like some years, it's so many roses out there, people will pass by and they'll stop and look at it, right? And then some years, the thorns and the vines of that thing stretch out, and it's a pain in my butt,
Right.
right? To like take the garbage
That's
out,
true.
and I'm trying not to get this thing clip my
That's
legs, or
true.
I'm trying to get out the garage, and a piece didn't come around and keep the garage door from closing. Not a single rose in sight, but it's still doing its rose bush thing,
Yeah.
right?
And it's been out there for
And
23
it's been out there
years.
for 23
Yeah.
years, right?
Yeah.
And no matter what we do or what we try, it's still going to be a rose bush.
Yeah.
And there's going to be a year when it's like I'm going to produce a lot of roses this
Yeah.
year. But the years that I don't produce roses, it still doesn't take away from me being a rose
And
bush,
what's powerful is that I don't know I don't know how it's going to produce.
No, we can't predict how it's
Right.
going to
I
produce.
can't predict when it's going to be like a bounty of roses and when
Right.
it's just going to be a little.
Right. And here's what's funny. You can go out and buy another rose bush and it'll do the exact
It'll do
same
the
thing.
exact same thing.
I'm
Right.
gonna produce roses when God says I should.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, it's like you thought getting another bush was gonna get you more.
Hmm.
Don't go out and get another bush, fellas.
But I think that that's really
You
powerful
know,
because, like you said,
yeah,
and then when you're thinking, when you start to have those thoughts
thoughts, yeah,
about whether or not I'm
yeah.
settling,
Right, right.
because I think when you have negative thoughts, when you feel like you're settling, then that's when you start to make poor decisions.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna uproot the
Yeah, I'm gonna tear this one up and I'm
right.
gonna put another one in,
Yeah,
and that one will do better. Now,
yeah. It's like yeah,
the rose bush is gonna rose
right.
bush, right? It's gonna it's gonna do what it's gonna do,
Yeah.
and you'll find it follows the same or similar pattern, or it has
Hmm.
its own pattern,
Yeah.
right? About what it does, and so part of that, once again, if we're gonna go back to being settlers and not just settling,
Yeah.
settlers realize that along the journey there's variability,
Yeah.
right? There's things we need to
Yeah.
prepare for. We need to prepare for the variability, for the change, for some uncertainty in life,
Yeah.
some things that are just beyond our control,
Yeah.
right? But we continue to pioneer because as Christians, we have the hope in what God said,
Yeah.
right? We believe it's true. We, he's a man of his word, right?
Hmm.
So we rest our foundation that he's going to do exactly what he said he's going to do.
Yeah.
And so, unlike those that in the world, they don't have that, you know,
Yeah.
they
That's
don't
true.
they
Yeah.
don't have that, right?
Yeah.
And so that's the hope that we can look at and say anything that we're in right now, it our relationship may not look like a rose bush,
Hmm.
but it may very well still be a rose bush, especially if God says it is a rose
Yeah.
bush.
And you to that point, you have to learn how to take care of the rose bush.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to figure out, okay, I'm tired of the rose bush, it's just an eyesore and it's this and it's that. It's like, okay, how do I invest in it?
Yeah.
What do I need to do?
Well,
All of those different things.
the whole idea of investing, and people miss this. This is why so many of us don't invest. You invest in something that has potential value.
Hmm.
You can't invest in it when it already has actualized value
Right.
because it's usually more expensive one than you can afford.
Hmm.
Once it's actualized value, it can't get any higher,
Hmm.
right? So the goal is to invest in something while to the normal eye it looks like nothing, but you recognize there's something there.
Yeah.
Every great investor has done it, right? And this is helping y'all for some of y'all that have never invested, right? That whole idea of buy low and sell high, that's the whole thing. You buy a stock when it has potential so that when the stock rises to its high height, when it realizes everything that it's supposed to realize, then you can sell it and you make gains,
Hmm.
So no, pioneers are investors. They're investing in what they believe this new land is going to be.
Yeah.
Do we go into a relationship with an investment mindset, or do we even have an investment mindset about who we're with today?
Yeah.
So, question, not Facebook, but Safehouse family, right? We're on Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, podcast, all of those. But do you view your significant other, your spouse, the person you're on the path to marriage with, the person you're in a relationship with, do you believe you are mutually investing in each other? Leave
Yeah.
us something in the comments about investing, right? Second question is, do you believe that you have a pioneering mindset?
Yeah.
Do you believe you and this person are on this lifelong journey of adventure and discovery? And even though there's going to be some wilderness and some wild animals and some challenges and some weather and some tumbleweeds between us and our destination, there's a destination where we can plant something great and then begin to grow something
Hmm.
much bigger than we ever imagined out of that.
Yeah.
So leave us some comments on that. We'd like to hear your thoughts
Yeah.
on what you think about those
Yeah. So
things.
I'm actually like really excited about this topic because we're going to be really kind of delving a little bit deeper into this whole idea. But what I love is that today we really kind of set the foundation for it. And so I also think that's important. Like I said, even in relationships, like I said, what foundation are you setting? And that's why I like that we use the whole pioneering
Mhm.
concept because when you're starting, you know, we are pioneers. It's uncharted territory. We've
Yeah.
never been together before.
Hmm.
We're dating and now we're married, and and it really is uncharted territory.
Yeah.
And so I feel like I'm going into Star Wars here, like not Star
Yeah.
Wars, Star Trek.
Star
You know,
Trek.
it's like, we're in uncharted
Yeah,
territory.
right, right.
It's a
To
new,
boldly go where
right.
no
No man
man
has
has
gone
gone before,
before.
right?
And that's really what we're
Right.
doing with each other,
Yeah, yeah,
because this is something that's that's the mystery of it all.
yeah, yeah.
We have never done this before.
Yeah. But we go into it instead of with the mystery of discovery, you go into it with expectations.
Right.
Right. And I'm not saying you shouldn't have expectations and
Absolutely.
standards, right? But we go into it sometimes with so many expectations that we miss on the opportunity to discover.
And that's what we're going to really talk about, because once again, even that piece about expectations,
Yeah.
your level of expectations can lead you to a healthy place of settling, which means we're building more,
Hmm.
but it can also lead you to a place of negative settling, where now the soil is not as great, and
Yeah.
it's not growing
Mhm.
like it should, because now you're not happy about the expectations
Yeah.
that you've set, and you don't really appreciate the results
Right.
that are coming about. So like I said, I'm excited about really kind of really talking about, like I said, the emotional part of settling, the spiritual part, and the intellectual part, because there's the healthy way to do it, and there's the unhealthy way to do it.
Hmm.
Because part of, like you said, part of our conversations always about Safe House is we want people to have healthy relationships, and so like you said, I think this is going to be a really good part, series, well, continuing series,
Yeah.
you know.
So here's a bit of news for you all. If you want to connect with us live, if you are going to be in the Memphis, northern Mississippi area, what is that? The 30th, I
Yeah, I
believe.
think so. It's the last
Yeah,
weekend
the last weekend in
in May.
May, we are going to be at Dwelling Place for their relationship weekend. We'll be doing a little bit of a teaching about
Do
this
they have a new
topic.
church name?
Oh yeah, I'm
Yeah, they
sorry.
do.
I'm sorry. At Glory Covenant Ministries. I am
Yes.
so sorry. We will be down with our friends, the Murphys, Pastor Apostle Ken Tony, and the
Carolyn.
Lady Carolyn. My memory's all
I
jacked
know.
up. I messed up the church name. I messed up Lady Carolyn's name. We love y'all. Don't don't
Yes.
don't get rid of us, please. Don't eject us. But we will be down at Glory Covenant, having fun, talking about this topic of settling and
Mhm.
faking and all of these things. And we'll be there that Saturday, and we'll also be there ministering on Sunday. So if you're in that area and you want to come check us out and see us in person, touch us, hug us, and shake our hands,
Yeah,
we
that's what
will
we'll be.
be there.
We're gonna be there. Got to be there.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Uh-oh. Also, if any of there are ministries out there that are interested in having us come and speak to their couples or their teams, you have our contact information.
Mhm.
In the link, I will have a link to our campsite where you can, get all of our information, our emails, the last episode, other materials, things like that. So
Mhm.
check that out. All the links that we'll have below. But yeah, I think it's going to be
I
good.
think it's gonna be good.
It's going to be good. So
Yeah.
hope you all enjoyed what we talked about today. And if you did, please give us a like, share this video with other people that are going down this path. Make sure you subscribe. Only a small percentage of you that watch the channel actually subscribe.
Yeah.
So let's
Go
try to
ahead.
let's get that number up. Just go ahead.
Do
It
it.
costs you nothing. Just do
Nothing.
it.
Just
Just hit that. Just click that. Just click. That's all you got to. That's your only cost. Just
yeah.
click.
Ding.
There you go. All right. That'll help us out greatly. So, yeah. So, with that being said, do we have anything else?
Nope, that's it, baby.
All we got to say back
Oh,
to
you know what?
What?
Before we go,
Mhm.
because what's Thursday?
What's Thursday?
It's our anniversary.
Hey. Hey.
32 years.
Do you know what today is? All right.
It's our anniversary.
Yeah. 32 years.
Yeah, 32 years.
Yeah.
Well, I think we've created quite a settlement, man.
Yeah, we have.
Yeah.
We've built up a little city.
Yeah, we
A
have.
little safe house city
Yeah, we have.
for the
So,
peoples.
Yes.
All right,
All right,
y'all.
until the next time, guys.
We love you.
We love you.
And
Peace.
peace.